So welcome everybody. It's really great to see so many people here. Some familiar faces and lots of new ones. Particularly encouraged to see that so many representatives of cocoa cooperatives have signed up to join us. So as I say, we'll be recording the session and we'll circulate the link to the recording afterwards, along with the slides so that that information can be shared further. So just a few introductions from our side. So from myself, I'm Hannah Davis. I work for the Lorna Young Foundation along with my colleague Hannah Clark. So two Hannahs. And we'll just do a quick introduction to what we do before we hand over to our colleagues at PDA who are working on this project. So the Lorna Young Foundation that we work for is a very small UK-based international NGO established about 20 years ago by a group of like-minded individuals, mostly connected to the coffee sector, who really wanted to see a better deal for smallholder farmers trading with international markets. And from the start, the Lorna Young Foundation was focused internationally on working with groups of organised smallholder farmers to help them improve their access to resources such as information, knowledge, good practices, technology, inputs, and that in turn will help them to sell their produce on more favourable terms to international markets. Since 2010, we've been using radio, local language FM radio, as a peer learning and agricultural extension tool, and that's become really central to our international work. And that's included work in the north of Ghana with women shea nut collectors and butter producers, and then a number of other projects that we'll mention a bit later on. We also work in the UK in disadvantaged communities with groups of people to raise awareness of trade justice and promote ethical entrepreneurship and support the development of social enterprises. So that's the Lorna Young Foundation. So we're the organisation behind Farmers Voice Radio. And I'm going to hand over now to David, Camille, and the team at our partners, PDA Africa, to introduce themselves and their organisation.
My name is Kamil Abdul Salam. I'm also with Participatory Development Associates Ghana. Before my colleagues would come in to introduce themselves, a brief about PDA. PDA is also a social development consultancy organization in Ghana. We recently paved out the PDA Africa, the NGO bit of Participatory Development Associates that will look at other aspects of non-profit interventions. We support the development processes of community, districts, national, and other institutions, creating a fairer world where all citizens can also reach their full potential. We do this through empowerment, service delivery, capacity building, and research in communities and organizations to advance collective objectives of equitable access to social economic opportunities to all. We are based right here in Ghana, and we have experiences working in other African countries such as Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Senegal, Cameroon, Rwanda, Uganda, Egypt, Morocco, Kenya, and a few others. Our main vision is of a world where states, communities, and organizations provide an enabling environment in which all people, regardless of their sex, race, ethnicity, creed, age, or disability, can realize their full potential. PDA, just as Lorna Young Foundation is the organization that came up with this concept, we are also the organization that first pioneered it in Ghana. And as the presentation goes on, we'll tell you a bit of how we implemented it and how the feedback that we received from the community level. So I'll hand over to my colleagues, Aseda, Gadiel, and David to also introduce themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Camille. Yes, so as you mentioned, my name is Aseda Mensah. I'm also with PDA and PDA Africa, and it's wonderful to have you all on call. I'm sure you'll hear from me a little later on as well. Gad?
All right, my name is Gadiel Mensah Yamoa. I'm also with PDA and PDA Africa. I will be providing support on this project. So as the presentation goes on, you'll hear more from our side. Thank you.
So hopefully you're all here to learn about the Farmers Voice Radio Academy for cocoa cooperatives in Ghana. And so we're going to tell you a bit about that. We're going to tell you about Farmers Voice Radio and where it came from, how it works, and then what this opportunity involves and how you can apply. And we'll have a bit of space for questions at the end. So first, a bit of background on what brought us to organise this Farmers Voice Radio Academy for cocoa cooperatives in Ghana. Kamal.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so as stakeholders within the agri value chain, I'm sure most of us are very familiar with the challenges that smallholder cocoa farmers in Ghana face. They are enormous. We are looking at the livelihood insecurities, driving practices that threaten social and environmental well-being. We are talking about child labor, we are talking about gender-based violence, we are talking about deforestation, and a host of others. These kind of systematic issues like gender inequality, poor connectivity, language barrier, and other land tenure issues limit access to crucial services and lead to the silencing of the voices of these farmers. But the Farmer Voice Radio, that is where the Farmer Voice Radio comes in. We at PDA and Learner Young, we find it as a game changer in this context that can help to empower smallholder farmers, especially women, by helping them get access to vital information and a platform to be heard. So briefly, this is what I can say about why we are putting this package together for our smallholder farmers. Hannah, over to you.
Thank you very much. So yeah, we've heard a little bit about the context that smallholder cocoa farmers are working within in Ghana. Why radio? Why radio in this context? So the Lorna Young Foundation started back in the early 2000s. And in those early days, the foundation was set up to empower smallholder producers, particularly working in commodity supply chains with the aim of helping them to access international markets and ethical markets. And the foundation did a number of different things in those early years, particularly within coffee. They did a lot of work in coffee. And there was a project in Kenya where they were seeking to reach a huge number of farmers through farmer field schools and face-to-face training and discussion groups. And one of our colleagues in Kenya also worked on a local radio station, Joseph, and he suggested that we use the very participatory methodology that we were using in these farmer field schools and in these discussion groups. They were called listening circles. And we use that methodology, but to make radio programs, that the discussions that were taking place face to face could be recorded in local language and could be played on the radio. And it was hugely successful. The radio programs reached across a huge area. It was in the area in Kenya, and coffee smallholder farmers from across the region were calling into the radio station asking for more information, asking where they could buy these seedlings that were being talked about, and wanting to engage in that discussion. And the Lorna Young Foundation at that point thought, right, this is a great way of reaching farmers, particularly reaching the farmers who don't often access the more traditional agricultural extension methodologies. So farmers that aren't able to get to the farmer field schools, women who often, because of various different reasons, aren't possibly invited to face-to-face interventions or just can't get to them because of geography, because of social reasons, because of their workload at home. So radio is a really excellent way of being able to reach those who aren't accessing more traditional technologies. And we know that there's a rise in mobile and digital technology. More and more people are getting online, but not everyone. FM radio is still the most affordable and accessible mass communications medium in developing countries. And we see that in Ghana, particularly. People still listen to the radio. Yes, more and more people have got smartphones. Yes, some farmers are accessing information online, but not all farmers. And particularly the farmers that are more traditionally excluded, such as women, such as tenanted farmers, they're not getting information online. They're not engaging in some of the discussions that are taking place online, but they are listening to the radio. They can listen to the radio at home. They can listen to the radio in the fields. You can listen to the radio on your Nokia handset. Radio still is one of the most accessible mass communication mediums out there, and it's inclusive and it has a rapid and wide reach. It is fast and it's wide reaching, and it's also affordable. It can reach a huge number of people for very little budget comparatively to what face-to-face interventions might cost. And we also find that radio challenges attitudes and perceptions, particularly when farmers' voices are being broadcast and where the information is being broadcast in local language. I'm sure we all know the power of peer-to-peer communication, that when people hear their peers, people like them, talking about things that they've changed, agricultural practices that they've experimented with, their own experiences, that information is really trustworthy, and farmers believe that information. They believe their peers, and when the information is transmitted in their local language, using the words that they understand, using the words that they know, then people are willing to take a risk and to change their attitudes and their behaviours. And Farmers Voice Radio, the way that we use radio, it really promotes achievable practices. We're raising farmers' voices to share their experiences, to share their local solutions, to share the things that they've tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what information they've accessed, what they found useful, what they haven't found useful. The farmers are the experts in Farmers Voice Radio, and that's what makes it a really effective methodology and a really effective approach. So how does Farmers Voice Radio work? Firstly, we bring together smallholder farmers in these discussion groups. We call them program reference groups, and we bring a group of farmers. We're really keen that the farmers are representative of who we're trying to reach. So we really seek to have equal numbers of men and women and farmers from all different parts of those farming communities. So we bring generally a group of 12 farmers together into a program reference group with relevant technical experts from their community, so local stakeholders, local experts, to discuss the biggest challenges that they're facing and to find appropriate solutions to those challenges. And then those discussions are recorded. They're edited into short program episodes, which each have a particular theme, and then they're broadcast generally twice a week on a local language radio station to thousands more farmers. We work with our partners, and the Academy will train the different participants up in how to decide which local radio station is most appropriate for the project that you're trying to do. So it might be in one particular region, there's a local language community radio station that you might want to partner with to broadcast the programs, and in another region it might be a different radio station. And we will train the group up to work out, to do the formative research, to consult with the farmers, their members, to find out which radio station people are listening to and at what time they're listening as well. Often we find that women listen to the radio at a different time to men. Sometimes women, in many of our projects, the feedback has come back that women tend to listen to the radio at the end of the day, possibly once their household chores have finished. And so that's when the radio goes on, and that's when women listen. So we try to encourage our partners to then broadcast the radio programs at a time that is convenient to the women, and then there might be another time in the week that's more convenient to men. And so we will do that research to find out what time is most appropriate for the regions and the farmers that you're working with. And We will also work with you to try and identify radio champions in the communities where you work and in the communities that your members are based to form communal listening sessions. And those communal listening sessions provide access to farmers to come and listen together, to come and listen to the radio programs in a group, to discuss the information and to bring together their questions that they can then send to the radio station, to the program reference group. And that enables farmers in those communities who possibly don't have a radio handset at home to come and listen together in a group. And those communal listening sessions are really valuable for people to discuss the content and to send in their questions. So it provides a channel for listener comments and questions, and that feedback loop increases participation and ensures that the programs, the radio programs, remain responsive to the needs of the farmers. And then that conversation continues off air, and the conversations that the radio programs provoke create stronger connections between farmers and other stakeholders, with the aim of building more resilient and inclusive rural communities. And we find that all kinds of people are listening to those radio programs. Yes, our target is the smallholder farmers, but then there's different people who are within the cocoa sector who are listening and hearing those comments and questions from the farmers and really learning about the real issues that farmers are facing. So often the radio programs have an advocacy element as well, because they're communicating what's the real situation of cocoa farmers at this time and what they're really facing. And what are the results of Farmers Voice Radio? We know that radio is a highly appropriate and accessible tool for farmers, but why would we do this? What does it lead to? So we see over and over again that Farmers Voice Radio is really effective at changing agricultural practices, changing attitudes and behaviours and practices of the farmers that are listening. And those practices can lead to greater climate resilience. We see that people are adopting methodologies and practices that previously they were nervous about or previously they hadn't understood. But the radio programmes are really effective at challenging farmers and motivating farmers to try potentially new types of seedlings, to try new practices, to take risks in their farming that might increase yield and increase the quality of their crops. We also see that Farmers Voice Radio is highly beneficial at strengthening the cooperatives that use radio in this way. It enables cooperatives to improve their engagement with their members, to improve their communication with their members and to hear back from their members, but it also encourages the farmers that are listening to the programs to potentially join the cooperatives and to better understand how the cooperatives work and how being part of the cooperative could benefit them and their marketing and their farming. And it also increases the transparency of the supply chain, and it enables farmers to really better understand the dynamics of the market that they're working within. Why do the prices change, and how does that impact them? What's going on further down the supply chain that could impact on them? Particularly with all the new legislation that's coming in with EUDR, the radio programs can be a really beneficial way of supporting farmers to understand what those regulations mean and how they can collect the data to enable them to still be able to market in Europe. So we're having lots of conversations with people about how Farmers Voice Radio and these kind of participatory radio programs can support farmers to understand the new EUDR regulations. And as we've mentioned, there's a huge gender dynamic to what we do, and the radio programs can enable equitable access to the knowledge and really support the development of positive female role models. When women farmers hear other women on the radio, it has a hugely transformative impact on them. Not only is it empowering for the women that are speaking on the radio, but it's really empowering for women that listen to other women who've got excellent experience to share and are positively sharing the challenges that they face and the difference that trying new behaviours and practices can make to their farming and their marketing. And the radio programs often really focus on the crops that we're talking about. They'll focus on cocoa, but the radio programs often then talk about other social issues that are happening in those communities. When you bring a group together, and farming doesn't happen in a silo. There's other issues that are going on in those communities that need to be addressed. And so often the radio programs will address issues about health and nutrition, gender-based violence and child labour, and the importance of children attending school. So we've got a video from a project in Uganda that we're going to show you now. This is two women that were involved in a Farmers Voice radio project in Mount Elgon in Uganda. They're coffee farmers. Both these women are coffee farmers, and they were both really involved in a Farmers Voice radio project that took place a couple of years ago in Uganda, and they're going to tell us their experience and how it was beneficial to them.
So my voice heard on the radio, it is very important because it gives others also courage to they pick interest in the program, because when I'm speaking on the radio, we are interacting with the people and they are able to also guide me on what again I should speak about the next time. So it has been very important because I also get interested and people get involved. Whenever I meet them, they tell me, "Hey, Esther, we heard you on radio. You were talking this." So it also gives me courage that it is really a good information that I'm giving them. And it has given us a lot of knowledge. And knowledge is power. When you have knowledge, it is power. It is more than money. You now have what to use. The little resource that you have, you're able to utilize. Okay, thank you.
So when we entered in this program of the radio and the teaching other people, I've now become like an officer because the thing which I'm doing is perfect. I've stamped my coffee. So now if you go to the garden, even we called with my husband, that why do you stamp all the coffees? I said, you wait, we shall eat very many things and we shall not grow old.
Thank you. So we've got a couple of other quotes here from two other projects, from two other Farmers Voice radio initiatives from the cocoa sector that we'd like to share with you using the words of two women who are key players in these projects. The first project was in Sierra Leone, where we worked in partnership with a newly formed cocoa cooperative whose members lived in the beautiful Gola Rainforest National Park. And their Farmers Voice radio programme was called Forest Friendship, that focused on sharing knowledge and skills in growing cocoa in harmony with the rainforest. And by the end of the project, 97% of the regular listeners were using at least 5 forest-friendly cocoa practices on their farms. And Geneva was one of the cocoa farmers who featured regularly on the radio programme. And she had this to say about her experience.
I'm going to read it, but it is Geneva's voice. I was selected from my community to be part of those that teach others to do cocoa farming the Gola way. Having my voice broadcast on the radio makes me feel big, proud, and honored. I can now stand in women's meetings and talk to fellow women without being shy, something I never did before. So the radio program has not only taught me how to practice forest-friendly cocoa production, it has also instilled confidence in me to stand out and speak.
Thank you, Seda. And the second example is from North Kivu in the Democratic Republic of Congo. There we worked with cooperatives and associations representing 10,000 women cocoa farmers living around the Virunga National Park, producing and broadcasting a radio program that raised female voices in the sector. And this sector was highly dominated by men, particularly at that time. And like in Sierra Leone, the program focused mainly on content such as agroforestry, conservation, and quality cocoa production, and ultimately managed to significantly increase the volume of premium cocoa sold by the women's cooperative to an eco-positive chocolate company. And so we're going to hear Asida go through this quote from Jasmine, who was one of the radio presenters of the radio program.
And she says, what I really like about the radio program is that it reaches out to women. It gives women the opportunity to be able to contribute to the family income and also develop themselves through cocoa. Women in the Congo and especially in Beni face huge difficulties. Women do not have a voice. You know, traditionally people thought that women could only grow certain types of crop and lots of the cash crops were left to the men. The radio program helps them find themselves and perhaps helps them find a place in society.
Thank you, Asida. I'm going to hand over to Hannah now.
Great. Thanks very much, Hannah, for the background, and Asida for reading those quotes, which I think are really powerful and help to bring to life some of the impacts Farmers Voice Radio can have on individual people's lives. So we're going to tell you a bit about the Farmers Voice Radio Academy now. So it's the Lorna Young Foundation always intended the Farmers Voice Radio approach to be open source, by which we mean that other organisations are able to adopt it in their own work without us being involved. And so our aim has been able to give as many farmers organisations as possible the skills and tools they need to set up their own Farmers Voice Radio programmes. And that's why we established the Farmers Voice Radio Academy. So we first launched it in 2022. And since then, we have run 4 academy programs. So this is a free training program that provides the skills and the knowledge and the tools for participants to run their own radio programs. So far we have trained individuals representing 50 organizations from across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, and they have gone on to design their own radio program series to reach the farmers that they work with. The Academy is comprised of 5 main components. We have group training in a workshop setting, and we'll tell you in a bit more detail about how that will work in Ghana, but it will be 2 workshops or workshop in 2 parts in 2 different times. And then there is individual coaching and support. So after the training in a group setting in workshops, individual participants or within their organizations will be supported directly to coach them on particular areas that maybe they're less confident in, and particularly giving them support to develop their own radio program concept. So helping them to do the research with the farmers that they work with, helping them to think about which radio station they will partner with, helping them go through the process of thinking about what the content will be, which farmers will be selected to feature in the program, that kind of thing. So kind of very much kind of tailored individual support in that area. All participants will receive a suite of resources. So a manual, a step-by-step guide for how to implement Farmers Voice Radio. And then you'll also be part of a community of practice. So as I say, we have trained people all around the world now on Farmers Voice Radio. So we have this virtual global community of people implementing participatory radio programs. So you get the opportunity to be part of that and support each other. And then at the end of the training, there will be an opportunity to apply for seed funding. So a small grant. It's not designed to cover all the costs of developing and delivering a radio program, but enough to get you going. We know that funding can be a barrier to many organisations to get them started on this kind of initiative. So this startup grant competition is designed at helping people, giving people a leg up to get going on their projects, and also to help them think about where else they might source the funds that they need to carry on implementation into the future. So, as we mentioned earlier, PDA, or David from PDA, was a participant in our very first Farmers Voice Radio Academy. So I'm going to hand over to David now to tell us a bit about his own experience of participating, and then how PDA used the learning in their work in the cocoa sector in Ghana.
All right, thank you, Hannah. So in 2023, I participated in one of the academy programs that were organized by Lorna Young Foundation. And as part of the training, as she said, we were helped to go through areas that we can use the program in. And at that time, we were working with Young Kopa on a child labor remediation program. And we thought that using the Farmer Voice Radio was going to be the best approach because we were supposed to do a sensitization exercise. And so we leverage on the Farmer Voice Radio approach to drive the child labor remediation efforts that we were doing with Yankopa at that time. And the approach helped us to exponentially reach a number of people that initially, if we had done the one-on-one sensitization that we were going to do, we would have reached. So, and there was also a lot of community ownership at that time. And the farmers that were selected to be part of the farmer group discussion were very happy that they were the ones leading these discussions. A key takeaway from the farmers was that the initiative was peer-led, and so it helped in the delivery of the sensitization that we were going to do. So they could hear their own farmers, their own colleagues telling them about the challenges child labor brings, how they can avoid child labor, and also get their children back to school. And so hearing fellow farmers and children from their own community sharing first-hand experiences and insights made the message more real and relatable and very effective. Thank you, Alas.
Thanks very much, David. Hopefully that's inspired some of you to think about participating in the Academy. It is very practical training. I'll tell you a bit about what it involves in a minute, but just an overview of the timeline of the Academy. So we're in phase 1 at the moment. So we've been very much in partnership with PDA doing consultation on people's interest in the Academy, what they'd like to see in there. And we're currently planning the content and obviously promoting the Academy, encouraging people to apply. And then we will have selection of the participants. So David and the team will tell you a bit more about the process of applying shortly. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 will be the actual training workshops themselves. So as I say, that's a 2-part, very practical training workshop, which will take place, one workshop in March, one workshop in April. And in the interim period, all participants are expected to go back to their respective cooperatives and do a bit of work. So start undertaking some research about potential radio station partners, start talking to their farmer members about what they might want to hear on the radio, what issues they might want to tackle, what time of day they should broadcast, how they should form the farmer listening groups. So when they come back for the second workshop, they've got some real information, some intelligence that they can use to start developing a radio program plan. And by the end of those 2 workshops, all participants should walk away with a plan that they can enact in their own environments. Phase 3 will be providing more direct coaching support to each organisation that's participated in the training, helping them develop their radio program plan further, helping them think about perhaps how they could pitch that to partners or potential funders. And we will also run the startup grant competition that I mentioned. So there aren't enough grants for all participants to receive a grant. It will be competitive, but there will be enough for a few people to be able to successfully apply for some seed funding to help them move forward. And then the final phase, which we envisage to start in the second half of this year and carry on into the following year, is the disbursement of the startup grants to the successful organisation and actual delivery of the radio programmes, and then working with those organisations to do the all-important monitoring of the outcomes and the impacts on the farmers that they're making the radio programmes with and broadcasting to. So what can you gain from this opportunity? As I said, it's really very practical training and support and coaching. It's very much about acquiring skills and knowledge that you can use and adapt in your context to develop and implement a Farmer's Voice radio program. So some of the components included in the training include how to conduct that formative research, how to identify which stakeholders or other organizations you might involve in your radio program and what their roles can be. Thinking about resource planning, so what you need in terms of finances and other resources to implement. So how to engage radio stations, how to think about which language you might broadcast in, how to make the idea attractive to them, and maybe think about other distribution platforms, maybe not just FM radio, but also social media, WhatsApp. Are there other ways that you can distribute audio content? The process of actually developing the content of the radio programs in a very participatory way, so it reflects farmers' needs and interests. And then the whole process of recording radio programs and the post-production process, the editing. You wouldn't necessarily be doing that yourselves, but how to work with a radio station to do that. We help you think about how to design listener feedback systems. We want the radio programs to be really interactive and to respond to receive listener feedback and respond to that. So how would you do that? There's a component on monitoring, evaluation, and learning. So how to measure the impacts of what you do, and then thinking about sustainability. How can you keep those programs going into the future? So those are all the skills and the knowledge that you would learn. We also help to support you develop a Farmers Voice Radio concept that you can pitch to partners or donors. As I said, the opportunity to apply for a limited number of grants, the membership of that global Farmers Voice Radio community of practice, and of course, a certificate and a social media badge that you can use to enhance your profile in different mediums. So I think I'm handing back to David from PDA just to run through what we see as the benefits for the participating cooperatives and smallholder farmers, and then the all-important information about how to apply and what the timeline is.
Yeah, so the first key benefit here is the ability to reach more farmers than you would have done if you are using your field staff to work, because in the cocoa sector in Ghana, you have some settler farmers who are very far in their cocoa farms, and it's very difficult to reach these ones. So if you use the farmer voice radio concept, you're able to boost your communication and engagement, especially with women and tenant farmers who often don't have the opportunity to attend most of the training programs that are organized by the cooperatives. You'll also be able to grow your membership and show the value of being part of your cooperative. Because if there are competing cooperatives in your area and they are not offering such services, using the Farmer Voice radio approach can help you grow your membership. Another major benefit that participating in this academic program can do for you if you actually go ahead to use it is to increase the income of your farmers. At PDA, we do a number of farmer income training, and we have seen that if you use this approach, it will improve cocoa quality, yield, and sustainability. There are a number of farmers who need information on pruning, different agronomic practices, and if you're able to use the Farmer Voice Radio Academy program concept to let the farmers lead these discussions, the productivity of your farmers is going to increase, and so will their income. The concept will also help you to simplify your compliance. I think Hannah Clark mentioned it during her presentation that if you use this approach, you can make the EUDR regulations easy to understand for your farmers, so it improves traceability. They understand all the various concepts in the EUDR, and so it will help make compliance very easy for you and the cooperative members. And as we used the concept in our child labor sensitization program, using the concept can help to protect children and raise awareness to reduce child labor. It is also an avenue to diversify the livelihood of your farmers, because there is that opportunity to share practical tips on good agricultural practices, processing, and agroforestry practices. You should be a representative of a registered cocoa cooperative or a cooperative union with a minimum of 100 members. We are talking about radio here, and we expect to cover a wide area. And so if your cooperative membership is relatively small, then it's much more easier for you to reach them face to face. But if you have a very huge number, then using the radio approach will help you a lot. And so we are expecting that the minimum membership for the cooperatives should be about 100, so it can be beneficial to them. You should have an idea for how the Farmer Voice radio program could benefit your cocoa growing communities, and also commit to attending the 2-day workshop in March and April and undertake project research and development work in the interim period. You should also have sufficient time and human resource capacity to dedicate to the development and delivery of a participatory radio program. So we are expecting that whoever will be selected from the cooperative to attend should not be maybe the president or somebody who is very busy, but whoever will be selected should be dedicated to going through the program and also commit to using the approach. One key eligibility criteria is also that you should be willing to abide by the Lorna Young Foundation Code of Conduct and participate in feedback and the monitoring processes that will be done, as Hannah Clark said, from June 2016 to April 2027. There will be a number of monitoring processes and feedback loops to understand how the program is helping you. And so you should be willing to abide and comply with all these things. The next slide. Okay. So for the application process, the flyers that we shared had a link for applying. And so that is what we are using. There's an online Google application form that you can access. But if you cannot access the soft copy or the online application form, you can get access to the hard copy of the application form from the PD office in Kumasi. We are located in Awomaso in Kumasi. And so if you need a hard copy of the application process, you can actually reach out to us and we'll make it available to you. The application deadline is 22nd February 2026. So as many of us that are here, if you want to apply yourself or you know an organization that can apply, encourage them to do it as early as possible so that by 22nd February, we close the application. And we are only offering limited places to a maximum of 10 cocoa cooperatives. And so by 2nd March, based on the criteria that the selection criteria, by 2nd March, we'll reach back to the organizations who are qualified to participate in the academy program. You can have more information on the Farmer Voice Academy website. And the workshop itself, the first one in March, will start hopefully in the week of March 16th. That is when we are expecting the first workshop. The workshop is going to be done in Kumasi. Kumasi is more central so that people who are coming from southern Ghana and people who are coming from the Brong-Ahafo, Western North can all converge at the same place for the workshop to be done. The specific venues will be communicated along the way when we are communicating those who are qualified to attend the workshop. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, David. We'll be answering questions in a few minutes, but before we come on to that, I just wanted to make a note to thank the different funders of this project. So you'll see there's a long list of different donors, trusts and foundations, mostly trusts and foundations from the UK that have committed funds to supporting this project. So that includes that list there, the William Cadbury Charitable Trust, a Network for Social Change, Coles Medlock Foundation, Foundation. They were the three biggest donors towards this work. And then we also received funding from the Chalkcliffe Trust, B1 Foundation, Peter Stebbings, Suter Charitable Trust, Austin Bailey Foundation, Gibbs Trust, and the CB&HH Taylor 1984 Trust. So it's helpful for people to know where the support has come from for this work. This isn't the only opportunity that you can speak to us. I'm going to share now our contact details. So there's the contact details for myself and Hannah at Farmers Voice Radio. And then also there's the contact details for David and Camille at PDA. And we would love to hear from you. And we're very happy to answer any of your queries about eligibility, about the physical and logistics of the workshop. Any queries that you have, feel free to reach out. If you have any concerns about the application form or how to fill in the application form, please do reach out to us. We want to make this as accessible as possible. So yes, please do contact us. But thank you ever so much to everyone that joined us today. We're very excited about starting this work in Ghana in the cocoa sector. Yes, it's a real honour for PDA and Farmers Voice Radio to work together in this way. So thank you very much for joining us.
So we look forward to welcoming all the participants here. Please feel free to apply or share it within your network. If you know anybody who will be interested in this program, kindly inform them, and we'll be happy to welcome you in the week of 16th March to commence the academic program. Thank you.